Good morning. Yesterday we traveled to Bethlehem on our virtual pilgrimage. Today we're going far up into the north, into the Golan Heights, to the ancient city of Caesarea Phillipi. Someone once said that Israel is like California. The farther north you go, the greener and prettier it gets. And that really is true. You have desert to the south in both California and in Israel. And the farther north you go, the waters get a little more lush. And when you get up into the Golan Heights, it's amazing how beautiful, how lush and verdant it is. It reminds me a lot of Cloudland Canyon, if you have been there and hiked there, with all of the waterfalls and all the water and how green it is because of how much water is there. Caesarea Philippi was an ancient place of worship long before it was called Caesarea Philippi. It was a place where people worshiped the god Baal. And there was a huge cave in the side of the cliff there at Caesarea Philippi, and water came gushing out of the cave. Unfortunately, today that doesn't happen. It's just a trickle at the bottom. But in those days, it would have just been pouring out, water falling down the side of the cliff, and it seemed to be miraculous. And in an arid world, of course, anywhere there is water, there is going to be worship because it seems so miraculous. And so Baal was worshipped there. And then by the Roman period, when Alexander the Great came through, they began to associate that site with the god Pan. Pan, of course, was the god who was a kind of half goat and half human with goat legs, but kind of a human-looking torso. He played a pipe. One of the little altars there was the altar to the dancing goats. And when I was there, I was quite fortunate enough to be able to catch on camera one of the ancient mythical goats still dancing there at that site. That site there, named for Pan, was not simply named for the god of goat herders or the god of desolate spots, but it also was named for Pan, the god of battle. Soldiers would pray to Pan, and they would pray that Pan would cause panic to happen in their enemies. And that's where we get the word panic, is that the god Pan would cause enemies to panic and to flee. And so there in this Roman city, this city full of idols to Pan and other gods, this city that had been associated with pagan worship for thousands and thousands of years, and Jesus' disciples would have known this. It is there that Jesus asks that question, "Who do you say that I am?" He had first asked the question, "Who do others say that I am?" The disciples answered, "Well, some say Elijah, and some say John the Baptist, and some say that you're a prophet." And then Jesus asks that incredible question, "But who do you say that I am?" All the disciples are tongue-tied for a moment or two, but then Peter, never particularly shy, blurts out, "You are the Messiah, the Christ, the Son of the living God." And in the context of all of those idols, unable to do anything and yet worshipped by so many, Peter is making an amazing statement. And Peter goes on throughout the rest of his life, and he shows that he lives by that statement in spite of the difficulties he had. He ended up, of course, dying a martyr's death for his Lord because he was so convinced that Jesus indeed was the Son of God. Now, we in our modern world may think that we are too sophisticated for idols. We don't worship down at statues. We don't look for altars of the dancing goat. We don't pray for the god of battle to bring panic into our enemies. And yet, even though we may be sophisticated, we still are idolatrous in so many ways. We're idolatrous in the ways that we view money. We call the dollar the almighty dollar. That phrase itself is idolatrous. And even if we don't consciously worship the dollar, most of us spend more of our time worrying about our money, worrying about how we will spend money or how we will make money or what we're going to do with money, than we do with how we will serve God and focusing on God. We, I think, often are looking for saviors in political leaders, and we bow down to the feet of political leaders, treating them like they are gods, treating them like they can do no wrong, and castigating any who would say otherwise. And that too is another form of idolatry. Sometimes we make family our idol, or political party our idol, or even things like a school football team can become an idol, that we get more concerned about that than we do almost anything else. And we judge other people by whether or not they subscribe to our team or some rival team. But the same question that Jesus asked the disciples in the midst of all of those idols, Jesus asks us in the midst of all of the idols in which we live. Who do you say that I am? And if you dare to answer, you are the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God, then be sure that you act like that your daily life demonstrates that. But here is some good news. When Peter makes that confession, Jesus' response to him isn't, "Good answer." But his response actually is, "Peter, flesh and blood didn't reveal that answer to you, but my Father in heaven revealed that answer to you." And that reminds us that God gives us the faith we need in Jesus Christ, and God also gives us what we need to live as disciples in Christ. So as you go out in this day, make sure that you depart your house, or you do whatever it is you're going to do this day as a disciple of Jesus Christ, knowing that God will give you the power and the ability to be that disciple. Why? Because Jesus the Christ, the Son of the living God, is not some long dead prophet, but he is with us even in the here and the now. God is with us. Amen.